In Mohammed bin Salman's way stood a long list of royals and oil-rich sheikhs. In ruthless moves, he decimated them. He engineered the biggest crackdown on the Saudi elite ever. Political observers would say that this was his only choice. He had formidable challengers, rich both in royalty and riyals. He used their wealth against them, though, extorting money ostensibly to return to the kingdom what was unlawfully taken away. Here's a look at the high-profile prisoners of Riyadh's Ritz-Carlton and why their release proved to be a mighty expensive affair.
Freedom has a price, goes a famous quote, and most people are not willing to pay it. Unless, of course, you are a prince of Saudi Arabia. Then you shell out billions. In this case, over $100 billion. It is worth noting that the prisoners could afford this price. And that's what makes this story even more interesting. 500 individuals, the wealthiest of a wealthy oil-rich kingdom of sheikhs, cooped up in a golden cage, the Ritz-Carlton. The most high-profile inmate was this man, the richest Arab prince Al-Walid bin Talal, worth over $18 billion with major stakes in the Citigroup, Twitter, Apple and several media groups in West Asia. The public face of Saudi Arabia to many foreign investors with controlling stakes in satellite television networks watched across the Arab world. Reports say he paid $6 billion to get out. Then comes Prince Mete bin Abdullah, former head of the National Guard and the son of former King Abdullah, also among the strongest contenders for the Saudi throne, was said to have paid $1 billion for his release. He was recently photographed attending a horse race with Prince Mohammed bin Salman. There's also Turki bin Abdullah Al Saud, the seventh son of King Abdullah, former king of Saudi Arabia. Prince Turki is the head of the board of directors of the Saudi Equestrian Fund and also has several business investments, including Al Obaya Corp. This man, Turki bin Nasser Al Saud, reportedly owns 200 classic cars, a $20 million private Boeing business jet, a mansion in Beverly Hills, and several houses in Barcelona, Riyadh, Tehran, and London. While most have left the five-star jail premises, many are reportedly still negotiating financial settlements for their release. Potential cash cows for the Saudi royal coffers as Mohammed bin Salman extorts money from his friends and family in the name of fighting corruption. Bureau Report, WION.
Now to a case that sounds like a story from films. Who poisoned Sergei Skripal, the former Russian double agent, and his daughter Yulia in the United Kingdom's Salisbury? That's the question many around the world are now asking, and British investigators are leaving no stone unturned to get to the root of this mystery, even if it involves blaming Russia and risking bilateral ties in this process. Could the UK's stance have anything to do with the nerve agent used?
Trust between Russia and the United Kingdom seems to be running short on supply. After facing mounting pressure to take action in the poisoning of former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter, the British Prime Minister has spoken up. While addressing Parliament, Theresa May said it was highly likely that Moscow was responsible for the poisoning.
Russia's record of conducting state-sponsored assassinations and our assessment that Russia views some defectors as legitimate targets for assassinations, the government has concluded that it is highly likely that Russia was responsible for the act against Sergei and Yulia Skripal. Either this was a direct act by the Russian state against our country, or the Russian government lost control of its potentially catastrophically damaging nerve agent and allowed it to get into the hands of others.
Mrs. May added that the poison used in last week's attack in Salisbury had been identified and that it was crucial to nailing Russia's role.
It is now clear that Mr. Skripal and his daughter were poisoned with a military-grade nerve agent of a type developed by Russia. This is part of a group of nerve agents known as Novichok. Based on the positive identification of this chemical agent by world-leading experts at the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory at Porton Down, our knowledge that Russia has previously produced this agent and would still be capable of doing so.
The Soviet-era chemical Novichok has been described as the deadliest ever made. The use of nerve agents of this kind is banned under international conventions. It was first developed in the 1970s by the then Soviet Union and is believed to have stayed in Russia from the time it was developed. Only a small amount of Novichok is enough to kill hundreds of thousands of people. The United Kingdom summoned the Russian ambassador to London for an explanation on the incident, failing which it said it would conclude that this action amounts to an unlawful use of force by the Russian state against the United Kingdom. However, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov hit back at the UK.
In accordance with the Chemical Weapons Convention, Britain was obligated to do the following. First of all, when the suspicions emerged that a toxic agent banned by the convention was used, they were supposed to send a request to the country which is suspected of being the source of the agent, and 10 days are given to answer that request. So before issuing ultimatums to report before the British government within 24 hours, it is better to follow the obligations in accordance with the international law. In this case, it is the Chemical Weapons Convention. And in general, speaking about manners, it is necessary to remember that the era of colonialism is a thing of the past.
In the meantime, the UK will raise the Skripal poisoning case with its NATO allies. Although the bloc's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg has already termed the incident horrendous and completely unacceptable. The United States has issued a statement in solidarity with the United Kingdom.
The use of a highly lethal nerve agent against UK citizens on UK soil is an outrage. The attack was reckless, indiscriminate, and irresponsible. We offer the fullest condemnation, and we extend our sympathy to the victims and their families and our support to the UK government. We stand by our closest ally in the special relationship that we have.
It's been 10 days since 66-year-old Skripal and his 33-year-old daughter Yulia were found stiff and unconscious on a park bench in Salisbury. While the duo remain in critical condition, the attempt on their lives seems poised to erupt into a full-blown diplomatic war between Russia and the United Kingdom. Bureau Report, WION.
Meanwhile, in Moscow, the focus is far from Skripal. In 4 days from now, Russia will choose from a list of 8 candidates to elect their new president. It is being called an election, even though the result is a foregone conclusion. All controversies and criticism aside, Vladimir Putin still remains the first choice of Russians and is well on course for a 4th presidential term.
Vladimir Putin is widely expected to secure a 4th term. The March 18th election seems like a formality for the Russian president who was first elected in 2000. The strongman of Russia still remains the favorite choice of Russians in the opinion polls. Pollsters predict that Putin will get more than 70% of the vote. But 7 other candidates are challenging the Russian president. 2 experienced politicians, the right-wing populist Vladimir Zhirinovsky and liberal opposition politician Grigory Yavlinsky, are in the fray. But there are also many new faces contesting this year's Russian presidential polls. One of them is Russia's strawberry tycoon Pavel Grudinin, who's backed by the Russian Communist Party. Grudinin is a known Stalin admirer. Ksenia Sobchak is the only woman face to contest the Russian elections this year. Sometimes known as Russia's Paris Hilton, TV journalist, socialite and actress, Sobchak is the daughter of the former mayor of St. Petersburg. But these faces are unlikely to give Putin any challenge. Critics and opponents of Putin have either been disqualified or put behind bars. Many of them have also been mysteriously found dead over the years. Many had hoped that opposition leader Alexei Navalny would challenge President Putin this year. The 41-year-old was seen as the most serious challenger that Putin has faced while he was in power. But he was not even allowed to contest the polls after he was convicted in a fraud case, which he says is politically motivated. When he took power at the dawn of this century, Putin implemented plans for Russia's economic recovery, which put more money in the hands of the common man. But during his 3rd term, Putin's cabinet was criticized for the slowdown in the economy. This is one of the reasons why the Russian president is running as an independent candidate for this election. While dissent has been steadily muzzled during the strongman's rule, Russians are yet to fall out of love with Vladimir Putin. Bureau Report, WION.